Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnackit.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnackit.sbnation.com.
This is the Black Gold Banneret Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Sharon and Eric Lopez.
What's up? Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon and Eric Lopez with you, along with the student of the game, Kyle Nash, college football hipster, stat boy Drew, Andrew Glukov joining us here on this. It's here. It's finally here, guys. That's why we're coming out with this podcast a day early. Football.
So
Thursday.
have I traded one 10-year-old label for another 10-year-old label?
No, you're keeping them all. The Leroy Jenkins of UCF Twitter Mafia, college football hipster Andrew Glukov,
and
is
Eric
here.
Lopez doppelganger.
Yes.
And yes, also known as Eric Lopez. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to preview UCF and South Carolina State Thursday night kick. We begin to get answers to the questions that we've been spending months speculating about. Now we finally will get some data on the situation. We have a very special guest. I'm really excited for this. Leger Douzable. You know him as a former UCF defensive lineman who spent 10 years in the NFL, CBS Sports HQ analyst. He will be on the call for the game on ESPN Plus, and he joined us actually earlier today. We record this on Tuesday, August the 30th. He joined us earlier to talk about the game, talk about his career in broadcasting and what he expects to see from his alma mater on Thursday night. So we're really excited. I'm really thankful to Leger too. I would run across him in the press box the last 2 years because he was on the UCF radio crew and we've talked a bunch of times, but it was nice to actually sit down with him and talk to him. So, I'm really thankful for his time on short notice too. So, but we begin with UCF opening the season against the South Carolina State Bulldogs. Gentlemen, about South Carolina State. This is not some FCS cupcake.
Here we go. Kyle, I got to warn you. Kyle, this is a tradition unlike any other. Jeff freaks out about every opponent. Makes them sound like they're the Super Bowl title.
I'm just saying.
The Masters.
I'm just saying this is a team that's the defending HBCU national champions. Everyone thinks that everyone thinks the best HBCU team in the country is Jackson State because they're coached by Deion Sanders. This team whacked Jackson State in the Celebration Bowl last time we saw them out there on the field. Coach Buddy Pugh is still at South Carolina State 21 years later. This is the third all-time meeting. South Carolina State, if I'm not mistaken, has yet to score a point against UCF.
They've lost. Not only that, they've lost by the same score, 38-0, every single time.
Hold up. First meeting wasn't 38-0. It was 17-0.
That was 08, right?
That was 08.
I was there.
I was on. Yep, I was there too. I heard the boos.
In fairness to Drew, for that team, scoring 17 points is like scoring 38 points.
Well, yeah, I must have been there, but I must have blanked that out because that season sucked so much.
That game in general, in particular,
that was the 4-8 season. Yeah, that was a rough time. But UCF is UCF is a 35.5 point favorite in this game. So yeah. I want to start with Drew here since obviously you'll be in town for this one. Actually, we're gonna go around the horn here. Each of you tell me the number one thing you are going to be watching for in this game. Drew, you start.
Oh, I'm going to go with the offensive line. I want to see how they gel and execute, because that's a much maligned group that struggled at times against good competition last year, and they're going to need them to be on point, next week. So this is an opportunity to really kind of get those jitters out. You have 2 new starters that are brand new from the transfer portal. They're Tylen Grable, talented. Ryan Swoboda is 6'10". Let's see if he can get down and hit. So it's all about the offensive line. Can they gel? Can they get things together? Because the rest of the offense won't hum without that offensive line getting it done.
Kyle?
I was going to say O-line too. I want to see what Sam Jack does swinging inside the guard, but since Drew took that, I'm going to go linebackers. I want to see what we have from this group with a lot of new faces. Only one major returner, Jeremiah John Baptiste, of course, as we have been apprised of by way of the Black and Gold Banneret.com's article covering the linebackers by our very own Bryson Turner. By the way, he's the one who's going to be in the building. Drew's going to slack on Thursday night and do it from home. Let's be clear about that.
Actually, Drew's working Thursday night. We'll get to that.
Oh, I'll be very busy, but I will be working remote with Eric Lopez.
Times 2.
Times 2.
This is what happens when we have weekday games, right?
I know Drew's going to put in his work, but I had to take a shot calling him a slacker sitting this one out.
No. I look at it this way. This is a win. Bryson Turner will be in there to get some work done, and he's been rock star.
Although he's a rookie. I mean, he's wearing a suit as we're doing the show here. He doesn't have to wear a suit for the podcast. He's already got his suit on for Thursday night. He could wait. He can.
He's like sleeping in the suit.
He's taking notes after Kyle, who's notoriously known for wearing.
That's true. Wow.
That's his shtick.
Not notorious. Famously.
Eric,
go with notorious.
Eric, what are you going to look for?
Well, Drew makes a good point. Who's going to have the better suit? Can Bryson match Kyle's level of suitness? That's going to on the
this
press
is
box.
Almost as bad as talking about food in the press box, which you always do.
So that's number one. Number two is the obvious for me. I appreciate you guys giving me the layup here. John Rhys Plumlee. Mm-hmm. This is going to be the first scrimmage with live action. This is the third official UCF scrimmage they've had this year. First to the public, open to the public.
Hear that, everybody?
It's a fact.
Listen, if something goes wrong here, folks, you know exactly who to blame.
Yeah, the quarterback position.
Eric Lopez.
No, the quarterback. That's the point. John Rhys Plumlee. This is finally we get some answers here, right? The biggest question: can he throw the football? Can he run this? Off? Is he the right guy? This is going to be, in a way, one of the more anticipated. Normally in a game like this, you already know, first drive, you might settle in. A lot of eyeballs are going to be ready in that first snap, guys. I mean, what does he do? And it's not really what he does with his legs that I care about. We know what he can do with his legs. What can he do with his arm? And to me, that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. I think a lot of people in the stadium and people watching are looking forward to seeing this too.
Hey, the people that watched him on the Jim Rome show will be curious.
Well, I will put myself out there and say I'm really looking forward to seeing how the running game will look with a healthy Isaiah Bowser, with a healthy Johnny Richardson, with a healthy RJ Harvey out there. And the reason why I say that is because I know Eric is looking forward to JRP throwing the ball all around the yard, but I don't think we're going to see much of that because I don't think Gus Malzahn wants to show too much of his hand against an FCS opponent.
No, you're going to see a lot of conservative play. They're going to be going through the motions. To Eric's credit, there will be a slight.
Well, hopefully not too much.
Going through the motions of stuff. But they're going to keep the creative a little closer to the vest because you've got such a big game just a few days away. But you mentioned RJ Harvey, who missed last year. He was one of the highlights that I picked out of the spring game last year. He's a guy I'm really looking forward to see. Physical specimen, built like a wrecking ball, short frame but stocky. Former quarterback transfer. I mean, still very raw as his experience, but boy, this guy's talented. I mean, he showed everybody up last year. Him getting injured, man, that was heartbreaking. So it'll be really good to see him on the field, even if it's just a little. Just to see him back on the field in a regular season game will be huge.
Well, to your credit, to your joy, Drew, Gus Malzahn on the Monday press conference did say RJ Harvey is ready and good to go to handle business. And I'll give you this much credit: the basic play calling, I think, is the best opportunity to get that offensive line to gel better too. I mean, listen, if you're run blocking, that is how you build communication and teamwork that you want on an offensive line that's going to need to protect one JRP as he slings it around the yard, as Eric wants to see in the future.
And the depth chart has come out, and at running back, you have a lot of oars. You know, the depth chart in general just has a bunch of oars. But running back, it's Bowser or Richardson.
More oars than a Viking ship. Oh God. Thank you.
Hey, I'm just glad we have I'm just glad we have a depth chart. Unlike the clown at Texas, Steve Sarkisian has announced he's not going to give out a depth chart all year round. Like, give me a break. Yeah.
But if you actually look behind it, after those two, you have it's Mark Anthony Richards or RJ Harvey. So I mean that's a good sign. You're going to see some action out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a great game.
Brought to you by the word "or."
Yeah, this is a great opportunity because you're hoping that this game gets settled. Some point in the third quarter, you start pulling starters out. No reason to keep them in too long, but it'd be a great opportunity to get some of the younger guys some experience, some game time experience.
Who do we want to see from that crew, Drew? Or the younger guys you want to see?
Aside from Harvey, I mean, at that point, I want to see, guys like Xavier Townsend, the very talented freshman wide receiver. Heard a lot of good things about him, earlier. And you know what? If things are going over, bring in Castellanos. Let him get a few plays. You got 4 games. You can keep his red shirt. Give him a little bit of play time because you know what King can do. You know what he brings to the table. Give the noobs, some of these freshmen, redshirt freshmen, new transfers. Give them an opportunity to get some field time. Work on some of those things. Guys like a Mikey King. I have faith that he could step in if needed and doesn't need that extra time if you can give it to someone a little bit younger who may not get an opportunity the rest of the year.
How about you, Kyle?
For my money, I want to see some Jordan McDonald. I want to see the juggernaut back there bashing some heads in, and let's see if we can break that in a little bit, get some stuff done. As far as that goes, Mikey King, I've seen that. Castellanos, interesting. N'Keal Harry, okay on defense. I'd like to see him a little bit. By the way, your boy Townsend there, Glukov, mentioned high on the depth chart for punt return. So that's something I'd like to see there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Eric?
It's a good point about the special teams there, the punt return. Do we see some, potential there? Some, it could be a potential weapon. The kicking game, do we see improvements there? I think that's valid. I think you guys have covered everything. The goal here is you want to get as many players as you can. You want to avoid injuries, obviously, and all that. And I just think that's the goal. You got to get off to a good start, get off to a sharp. Hopefully there's no delays like last year where Andrew, you can speak to that. That was hopefully the weather's good. It seems like it'll be good. So at least Kyle, you got that going for you. But hopefully get as many bodies in there, get out. Cause you're right. You got Louisville for about a week after that. So that I think
1 week and 1 day. I like having that extra day to prepare for Louisville because they're playing
especially
next Friday.
For a game that's during the week. It's not often that you get Thursday to Friday.
And you get an extra day on the back end of that to prepare for the third game against Florida Atlantic too, which is the other thing.
They had a big win in week 0 over Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
It looks really good.
They actually did. I watched that. Taggart with the quarterback, the UM transfer, may have found his Perry. Yeah, They could be a big year for Willie Taggart here, try to contend in the final year in CUSA before they go to the American. So that could be tricky for UCF in a couple of weeks. Yeah. But
fun fact, Willie Taggart has never lost to UCF.
Well, that's not
just putting that out there.
Forward. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this gets me to our next thing that I wanted to talk about, which was our season predictions. Now, a little promotional stuff here for you. You can send us your season predictions as well. If you go to blackandgoldbanneret.com, we have a Google form up where you can pick each individual game of UCF season. You can also pick whether or not you think which bowl game UCF can go to, what your matchup will be in the American Athletic Conference Championship, and what UCF's bowl game result will be. We all put up our predictions already on blackandgoldbanneret.com on that same story. I think it's helpful to go through. All right, first, all the games we think unanimously will be wins. All right, and there were 7 of us. South Carolina State, FAU, Georgia Tech, interestingly enough, Temple, Navy, and South Florida. Those games, all 7 of us think UCF will
should be locks. I mean, FAU, I wouldn't. Yeah. FAU, actually, I'll give them a little respect in that I wouldn't put that in pen because I was impressed what I saw. I think that could be a tricky game if UCF doesn't show up and play well. The other games, UCF doesn't have to show up and they'll still win.
Including what might be the last ride for Jeff Collins.
Oh yeah, I think he's going to get fired. Chris Fallica, in fact, on game day, one of his bold guaranteed picks, Georgia Tech under 4 wins this year, and South Florida under 4 wins.
Ooh, wow.
Big trouble in Georgia Tech. They changed a lot in the staff there. Yeah, it's not. They're in trouble.
Yeah. All right. Well,
chili hot.
Yeah. Well, Jeff Collins' chili is really hot right now. Let me tell you. The one game that we all had the most disagreement on was SMU. 4 of us picked UCF to win it. 3 of us picked SMU to win it, including you two, Drew and Kyle. Bryson also picked SMU, but you guys have gone through. That's. I get it, right? Mordecai's back, new head coach, but a coach who's familiar with Gus in Rhett Lashley, who played quarterback for Gus in high school in Arkansas. What is it about that game? Because that game's here. It's not there. So
I'll let Kyle go first.
Oh yeah, you're gonna let him. You're gonna let him take the flag first, aren't you?
No,
yeah.
Because he definitely has a thing for Rhett Lashley and his inability to pick a quarterback.
It's not his inability to pick a quarterback. It's his inability to lie about it. Okay, let's be clear about that. This whole thing, listen, you guys are somehow rused by Coach Lashley and him hiding. Oh, I'm not going to start Tanner Mordecai. Hey, put the pipe down, fellas. Okay. How many? 3,600 yards, 40 touchdowns, something like that. I forget the number precisely. I'll give you the short version. A lot. And the reason why I call for that is because
isn't this him on the front of the book too? I'm saying This is Gus's book. Here's Rhett Lashley right here. Anyway.
Well, hey, that's all adorable. All the more reason for Lashley to play that like it's his Super Bowl, whereas Malzahn is sunsetting, and this is a fun job compared to being in Auburn in the SEC. But the punchline is this, gentlemen. At the end of the day, a team that can score like that is problematic if they start to get behind against a team that is a run-first offense. But hey, listen, their top running back from last year is returning over 700 yards. Well, that's not impressive. He was one of 3 ball carriers with over 700 yards. That was a committee system, gentlemen. And if the Mustangs need to go balanced, they can still trample you with a stampede on the ground. You may be able to pick apart their O-line and there being some transition, possibly, but the linebackers aren't going to be enough for that to be a factor.
Oh, go ahead, Drew. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, sitting in a dentist chair getting a root canal is probably a lot more fun to be the Auburn head coach.
As Brian Harsin is undoubtedly finding out right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at what's going on with the athletic director and all the other stuff. I mean, just that place is an absolute mess.
There's some hot chili going on up down on the plane.
I don't know if chili is what you want to call it, but there's something hot and steamy going up there. But
leaving that one alone.
Yeah, I think Kyle may hit a lot of good points. I mean, this is a very balanced team, and now you have an even better offensive coach in there. They faded last year, but other than the Cincinnati game, there was no eggs laid. They were in every game. They just faded. So the big X factor is UCF's home field advantage. The playing in the bounce house has always been now FBC Mortgage Stadium, which just doesn't roll off the tongue real well.
I'll let you know how it rolls off the tongue. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. But that home field advantage is brutally difficult to overcome for a road team. It hasn't really been done for the most part since 2020. But the truth is, this is a really good team. This is probably the best team that UCF's going to see at home all year in the regular season. I mean, people are like, "Oh, Cincinnati, they were 1 point away from being the top team in the American." Thank you to Black Gold Banneret for saving the league from that travesty, because we picked them fourth, and this is why you lose 9 guys to the draft unless you're Ohio State and can retool. This is Cincinnati. They can't retool that quickly. They have good players, but you can't.
If they do, God bless them.
Well, they've recruited, in his defense, they've recruited very well. They've been top 40 recruiting class. So they got talent. It's young. It's young.
You know
talent.
how I feel about recruiting rankings.
Well, I trust Luke Fickell. What he's doing in the state of Ohio.
And they're still recruiting very well, but that they're very young. You can't really expect those guys to really rise up until year 2, potentially year 3.
Well, we're going to learn a lot about them week 1 because they're going to Arkansas.
Oh yeah, they've got a legit challenge, and there's a reason why it's put on one of those, one of the ESPN channels. It's a legit game. It's more legit than South Carolina State versus UCF. I mean, it goes without saying.
Put the bar nice and high, buddy.
What as Eric says, it's a glorified scrimmage.
Oh, it is. I mean, the scrimmage actually might be much more difficult, honestly. Let me back up, Kyle, about SMU. SMU. I did talk to someone at SMU. I will defend Rhett Lashley on this front. There is pressure internally for Lashley to play Preston Stone, who's their 4-star quarterback. There's talk that if he doesn't play, that he's going to probably follow Sonny Dykes to TCU. So that might be why there was some gamesmanship as far as, hey, I'm not going to name a quarterback, because in this day and age of the transfer portal, you're trying to massage egos here.
Yep. See, I don't buy that. You know why? If he wants to go, he's going to go anyway. What player? No, seriously, what player is if he really wants to play for Sonny Dykes? What's gonna stop him?
Sonny Dykes.
Exactly.
That's the only guy who's gonna stop him.
Right.
In fairness, I think, while you might be right, Jeff, that doesn't mean the coach isn't going to try. I mean, listen, let's look in our own backyard. Every third sentence from either Gus or anybody offensive, the name Thomas Castellanos comes out. We know for a fact Home Slice wasn't starting this year, and yet they're going to keep mentioning him anyway. Say what you will about stroking of the ego. Hey, I'll mention it. Flattery gets you everywhere if you're talking to Kyle. So at the end of the day, there is something to keeping him comfortable if you're going to ask a player to sit and watch.
Especially in SMU's case, where Stone's the future. Like Mordecai's, I think, is done after this year, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, there was some that didn't expect them to come back this year. So that's something. That's why I don't know what to expect from SMU. I agree that they can beat UCF, but I could also see that implode.
Well, that's why he picks it. I mean, it eventually becomes like a coin flip.
Well, yeah, that to me, getting back to the prediction grid, that was the one that's like, I think, the closest coin flip between the two, because it was 4-3. 2 other teams got 2 L's, Louisville and Memphis. I confess that I was one of the people who threw the L on the Memphis game for 2 reasons. Number one, I know how really hard it is to go undefeated. And I think a lot of people, yeah, sure. It's, you could say, well, does that mean I think UCF will lose that game? No, I actually think UCF has a greater than 50% chance of winning every game they play coming into the season. That said, that's back-to-back. It's a back-to-back. It's a Friday night. I do expect UCF, according to my predictions, to come to that game undefeated. If they do, we know what happened up there the last time. And also, who helped convince me of that was you, Drew. Because
I'm
the quarterback the quarterback there, I was doing a little research on him. I think he's legit.
Seth Hennigan is a gunslinger. I mean, he's an absolute gunslinger. And there's something about that game that feels like coming out party, it's a road game for UCF. It's their first
national TV.
it's, there's East Carolina, but it's their first real test away from home. I mean, real test. So there's
Don't
that.
sleep on ECU though.
So ECU is a dark horse team, but I think they'll still end up at around sixth in the conference. I think there's a gap between the top 5 and everybody else, and I think they just missed the cut. But any of the top 5, and that's UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, SMU, Memphis. Any one of them can win this conference.
Yeah.
Any one of them can. Obviously, you need some balls to bounce the right way for one team. But this Memphis team is very good. And they don't get a lot of credit because they get overshadowed by the Cincinnatis and the Houstons. But
on paper, it's the toughest conference road game on paper.
When you look at the conference road games, what's it? Tulane, USF,
ECU, and Memphis.
I mean, at that point, you're looking at a giant trash heap. Of course, Memphis is going to be number 1 on that list. UCF has arguably the most favored schedule I have ever seen. It's ridiculous.
Up there. It's up there.
You look at that road schedule. That you've got 2 cupcakes. ECU, who's going to, and then Memphis.
17 was a pretty favorable schedule too. I will admit.
Not like this. You leave the state 3 times all year.
And I would argue, by the way, in 2 of those 3 road games, there'll be more UCF fans than the actual home team will have in Tampa and in New Orleans. I think a lot of UCF fans will make that trip to New Orleans and probably go 50-50 with Tulane fans. They don't draw well up there in New Orleans. So I think you're right, Drew.
Bryson, by the way, picked Tulane. I just want to point that out for everybody.
I have nothing on that one.
I mean,
I have nothing.
Let's just move on.
So that's what I attributed it to.
Well, no, look, in fairness to Bryson, I mean, Tulane would be the candidate to be this year's Navy. The game that you just blew, you gave away, you choked. You just had no reason, purpose.
It is the only Memphis Tulane is UCF's only back-to-back road games, and that's the second of that back-to-back.
Yeah. Right. So I would say if you're going to pick a game that I can't believe they lost that game, that would be at the list. Tulane, right there, in my opinion. So it's a bold pick.
Noah picked Cincinnati as the loss.
Yeah, I mean, that's respect. That's fair.
Derek picked ECU as the loss.
I mean, it's Greenville. Weird things can happen.
Holden Ehlers has been there since the 1990s. I mean, he's been there forever.
I will say one thing about ECU. They are very well coached. I think
Mike Houston.
I think Mike Houston's very good. Yes.
Yeah, and the trajectory seems to be moving in the right direction for that program at long last.
They finally shaken the curse of Ruffin McNeil because they never should have.
Well,
I'm not going to go that far just yet.
We'll see how that works.
But they're in the right direction.
They should never fire McNeil. They paid.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Now, all but one of us picked UCF to be one of the 2 teams in the American Championship. The only one who didn't was one Kyle Nash, who picked SMU and Houston. Let's see. Most of us picked Houston. One person, Bryson, picked SMU. Noah picked Cincinnati. 3 of us picked UCF to win the American outright. 2 of us, Kyle and Bryson, picked SMU to win it. Eric and Drew picked Houston to win it.
Drew, we're the smart ones, aren't we? We're always the smart ones on this.
Why are you the smart ones, Eric?
Because Houston's the best team in the league. They have the most favorable schedule. They have the experience back. And if you look at the history of the American...
You make a good point about their schedule.
Right. So odds are they're in great shape to host the title game. Plus, if you look at the history of the American, teams that knock on the door and lose come back stronger. Look at Memphis, right? Losing to UCF, 17 and 18, eventually got over the hump, beat Cincinnati. Cincinnati had to get over the hump of UCF and Memphis, got over the hump. Look at Houston last year. They got to that championship game. They broke through and then gave Cincinnati a good game that night. So I think it's their turn to get over the hump. And Toones is a really good quarterback. Nobody talks about him, but he's got he's really good. So I do think Houston is the best team here in the league. At least I would, rightfully so, being the favorite. And I think they are the best shot. Them and Cincinnati, in a weird way, those are the 2 teams that I think have a legitimate shot to make the playoffs out of the American.
Yeah, I think SMU has the hardest road because they have the hardest schedule.
Yes,
right. All the contenders, whereas UCF don't play each other at all.
Which works in both of their favors.
SMU plays Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF. So I mean that's a gauntlet.
Yeah, that's tough. Bowl game. 2 of us picked the Cotton Bowl, which is the G5 Bowl. I was one of them. So is Noah. 2 picked the Birmingham Bowl. Eric and Drew. 2 picked the Military Bowl. Bryson and Derek. And Kyle, you went with the First Responder Bowl.
I did. Yes.
Wow.
They never invite you to the Military Bowl. How many years, gentlemen, has this been prescribed? And it's never happened.
But let me get, listen, this is the fun part. And I want to, because this is the part that people are going to, I think, enjoy is who we expect to play in those games. I picked Texas A&M in the Cotton Bowl. I think that would be fun. Noah picked Texas in the Cotton Bowl.
Nah. Sorry.
Eric, you picked Tennessee in the Birmingham Bowl.
Bring me some hype bowl. Yeah.
Drew, you got a really fun pick right here. Ole Miss, the Lane Train in the Birmingham Bowl.
And he loves UCF.
Yeah. I bet he does. Derek picked Virginia Tech in the Military Bowl. Bryson picked Pittsburgh in the Military Bowl. But I think Kyle has the most intriguing matchup of all with the First Responder Bowl, Miami. That would be fun.
With 2 fan bases that would be very miserable if that happened, by the way. Like, none of them would.
When you say miserable, do you mean like angry?
Yes. Like, no, seriously. Like, I think in our picks, I think Kyle's is the worst case scenario for UCF. And if Miami with the high expectations, if both teams end up there, nobody's going to that game. Like everybody's going to be miserable.
That's the game, by the way, that's hosted by SMU. It's in Dallas.
Right.
In fairness, Kyle did pick the lowest overall record, so I guess you could say it would be worst case.
Well, let's go with that real quick. I had UCF at 13-1. Forgot. Okay, there it is. Eric, you have 12-2. Drew, you have 12-2. Kyle's got 10-3. Bryson, Kyle just selling on UCF all over the place.
Although 10 wins, that's actually much better than I was expecting from you, Kyle. So yeah, that's pretty good.
We all picked everybody with 10 wins.
You're sounding like a Notre Dame fan talking trash on Brian Kelly. It's still 10 wins, damn it.
No, you're right. That's a fair point, Kyle. I think it's a fair point.
Bryson went 10-4. Derek 13-1. Noah 12-2.
So I think I think the fan base we would all agree. 10 wins in a minimum is the expectation this year.
Well, anything 9 last year,
right?
On paper, all things considered, and by the way, I think we all would agree that UCF probably would have gotten to 10 wins last year had the injury situation not been what it was.
Actually, let's go with John Madden. If they didn't lose the Navy game, they'd have 10 wins.
Right.
Well done, McFarland.
Yeah, but no, 10 plus wins. And I think, honestly, a trip to the conference championship game is not unfair, quite frankly. I mean, Drew, you've brought it. This is a favorable schedule. By the way, it's probably going to be the last favorable schedule UCF's going to have for a while.
It's not just a favorable schedule, but this is a much more balanced league. You don't have
the league is up this year, I will say,
which is just leagues ahead of everybody else. This is a much more competitive league where you have 5 teams with legit shots.
Yeah, and I don't think, Drew, based on what you're saying, I don't think it's that the league as a whole is worse. I think as a whole the league got better and Cincinnati came back to the field.
Yeah, Cincinnati came down. You have
everyone else came up a little bit.
You have Houston who moved up. You have SMU who's kind of still in the same spot. I think they kind of underachieved a little bit. And then you have UCF who's expected to deliver on goods that they failed to deliver last year.
Yeah. All right. Let me ask you this real quick before we finish this up. Which team in the American that we have not mentioned as a competitor do you think has the best chance of coming out and just surprising everybody and maybe competing for the conference championship?
Well, there's only one. It's East Carolina. They're the only ones in the not in the top half that have a shot. No one else does.
Okay. Eric?
I agree with Drew on that.
Kyle?
I mean, I like Holton Ahlers too. Not for nothing.
There's something about ECU that kind of scares me a little bit with Mike Houston, I think, and with Ahlers being a 5th-year starter, a quarterback, his first start. Remember what his first start was?
Yeah, against UCF.
Yeah.
He replaced Marcus Crandall after the injury.
Oh my God. No, his Holton Ahlers' first start at ECU was the 2018 game in Greenville when Mackenzie Milton was a game time decision, did not play.
That's right.
Ryan Murphy broke that Daryl Mack was going to be the starter.
And Holton Ahlers threw a nice pick 6 to help UCF win that game, just like he threw many picks last year to help UCF win, just like he'll help them UCF win this year with picks like he's done throughout his entire career.
He's kind of like Brett Favre. He throws the ball.
No, he's a bad version. No, he's Eli Manning, actually.
No, Eli Manning doesn't have that kind of arm strength. He throws the ball very hard. He throws it fast, and he throws a lot of interceptions. People. That's Brett Favre.
Jeez Louise.
By the way, great breakdown of Brett Favre, Drew. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
But guys, real quick before we go, another guy to keep an eye on with ECU is Keaton Mitchell. They're really talented running back. He should be mentioned as well.
So those are our predictions for the season. Send us your predictions. We got a form up on blackgoldbanneret.com, which you can hop on. Give us your game-by-game predictions. What bowl UCF you think is going to go to, and who your American Athletic Conference Championship prediction will be right here on Black and Gold Banneret. We're going to post the results game day morning and kind of break down who the fan base thinks
and real quick
be a little bit the toughest games, I think. Go ahead.
I just want to mention real quick, because I know we're going to get feedback about this. Why not Gasparilla? Why not Boca, for example? In-state bowl games. Drew and I have covered the bowl projections, nailed the bowl projections for UCF the last couple of years. Our belief, Drew, and you can correct me, you can back me on this, correct me if I'm wrong on this. I think we both are on the same page. We believe that Gasparilla is out because UCF's last regular season game is going to be in that stadium against South Florida. They usually don't want to go back-to-back games in the same stadium. Plus, you were there last year. You're not going to get Florida 2 years in a row there. So I don't see the appeal there. And then UCF's playing in Boca this year. I don't see them going back to Boca twice in the same year. I don't think fans would be interested in the same trip twice. I think that's why you and I agree on Birmingham, Drew, because I think that makes geography sense. Military is a good pick, and then even Dallas area is not a bad pick from Kyle.
There's a precedent. That runner-up in the American tends to end up in Birmingham. It's happened on a number of seasons, so it's not out of the realm of possibility of going there. But to stay in Florida, when you actually look at where you are in the calendar, it's usually a sign of stature in the bowl. Those are early season games in the bowl season. Granted, last year Gasparilla found gold with Florida and UCF. That's not going to happen again. And if you actually let's take it back, remember the 2020 game was canceled. So if you actually look at UCF played in 19, UCF played in 21, there's no way the Gasparilla will have them in 22. It's just not how the bowls work. They just don't like doing that off. Also,
when it comes to bowl predictions, we're all just throwing pasta against the wall and seeing what sticks.
The other thing to keep in mind is part of these bowl agreements is also involving hotels and out-of-towners. You don't get that with day trips. Tampa is a day trip. Boca Raton is kind of somewhere in the middle of that. It's about 3 hours, from campus. So I mean, you could probably drive back, late that night, but you go to Birmingham, you go to any of those other bowl games. It's not a day trip. You're gonna stay there. That's part of it's part of the selling point between the bowl game and the city about the economy and everything. That's why you don't see too many locals too often. They do rotate them around, move them around, and these are all ESPN. Those are both ESPN-owned games. You want to get away from those. You want to get to the better games.
Plus, I don't think the conference is going to do teams that are leaving your conference any favors either. Like I think they're going to favor teams that are sticking around.
So what they're going to do is they're going to make an arrangement with ESPN to do some bowl trade, and they're going to send them to the famous Idaho Potato Bowl up in Boise. Got it.
Oh, God.
Kyle, that's your trip right there, man.
Rematch with Boise State. Okay.
Listen, I'll take a game on the blue field over going to Birmingham. I'll be on.
Well, send us.
Wait. That's going to be at the new stadium, the new stadium that UAB is using. It's not going to be Legion Field. It's actually a very nice stadium.
It is really nice.
So it's not going to be the same old gray lady that the Legion Field was. So give it a fair shot. Give it a shot.
All right. So when we get back, By the way, again, reminder, send us your predictions, blackandgoldbanneret.com. And you have until midnight Wednesday night into Thursday morning to get that in. We're going to post results Thursday morning. All right. When we get back, Leger Douzable, former UCF defensive lineman, played in the early days of Coach O'Leary. He's been a part of the UCF radio crew in the past. You've seen him on CBS Sports HQ. You've seen him on ESPN Plus. He is doing analysis for the game on ESPN Plus Thursday night against South Carolina State. Dooz drops by to talk about UCF coming in, also his career in broadcasting, how he got into it, how he's enjoying it so far. We also see him on I Am Athlete as well. He does a great job with that. We talk about that and plenty more with Leger Douzable when we return. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast, and we are back after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Joining us now, a guy who I've really wanted to get on the show for a while. I see him right in the booth next to me, in the radio booth with Mark Daniels. He's a 10-year NFL veteran, a beloved UCF Knight from his time here in the early White Horse days of George O'Leary, right, Leger? Leger Douzable, yes, Leger Douzable joining us. He's also a host on I Am Athlete tonight on Sirius XM Satellite Radio. And he will be doing color analysis for the Knights opener against South Carolina State. Leger, welcome to the show for the first time, man.
Of course, man. Thank you guys for having me.
No, thanks for coming on board. We all right. So, well, this is your third year doing analysis on ESPN?
Second year.
I
did 2 years radio UCF before that.
Right.
This is my second year doing ESPN, calling games, and it's been a blast, man. I'm looking forward to Thursday night. UCF for South Carolina State.
I've been following you ever since you retired from obviously when you were playing, of course, but your TV career as well as CBS, and now you're doing this. It's so good to see you on there. And is it kind of, when you're doing a UCF game, do you kind of have to hold back a little bit because it's your alma mater?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just get into character, right? I got to be neutral. That's my job. That's what I get paid to do. And I think I do a good job of doing that. I've heard people say, you're not really a UCF fanboy when you call UCF games. I try to keep it even killed. I just try to bring my swagger and knowledge to the game and literally try to break the game down so an infant can understand it, right? My job really is to make everybody more understandable of what's happening during the game as far as the X's and O's. So that's what I try to do. That's how I try to separate myself from other color analysts. As far as instead of just giving you the bare minimum, I really try to dive into the game and give, fans some knowledge that they may not know, take them onto the field.
Who is your guy? When you watch games, is there a particular analyst or broadcaster that you looked at and you were like, I want to be like that person?
Well, I try to be myself. I want to be like anybody, but if there was one guy that I've really tried to, I would say, emulate or study, it's Tony Romo, man. What he does on the offensive side of the ball as far as calling out plays and really detailing what offenses are doing, that's what I want to do, not just on defense. I want to do that on offense as well and even special teams. So as far as just the X's and O's part, I mean, Tony Romo is second to none.
Let's talk about the game coming up on Thursday night. UCF opened up against the defending HBCU national champion, South Carolina State. I think people kind of forget, that team was for real last year. They beat Jackson State in the Celebration Bowl. And it wasn't close. They
beat them handily.
Yeah, they took it to them in that game. So this is a good football team that's coming in. This is not some FCS cupcake. What do you see from South Carolina State that makes you sit up and notice them?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Pugh's Buddy Pugh's been there for over 21 years, I believe. Just got another extension this past offseason. Great coach, has his players ready to play. I mean, if you look at the history of their defense, right? They send guys to the NFL. Javon Hargrave, Shaquille Leonard. Last year, Jacoby Durant went in the 4th round to the defending Super Bowl champion, Los Angeles Rams. So, their bread and butter is their defense, right? This is a defense that's an attacking defense. They're going to show you different fronts, 3, 4, 5-man fronts. They're going to blitz from different angles. They're going to try to force your quarterback to make quick, decisions at the quarterback position. And then they're going to try to create negative plays on offense by slanting their defensive line, bringing some boundary corners, bringing some linebackers off the edge. So this is a defense that plays fast. Also, they turn you over. Cost 25 fumbles last year, right? With 14 interceptions. They're +9 in the turnover margin. So they take care of the football on offense, but yet on defense, they turn you over. So this is a team, led by Jablonski Green, their outside linebacker / DN. He's not just the HBCU All-American, right? He's the FCS All-American, right? So that's one of the top players in the nation at the FCS level. 19.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. Was really dominant in that Celebration Bowl versus Jackson State. So he's a guy that, I would think Gus Malzahn and his offense is really honed in on defense, but defense is their bread and butter. Also, they got a big playmaker on the outside in Shaquan Davis, right? 6'5", 205 pounds, but this kid can run. He can go up there and get the football. There's times during the season you watch the film, they double team him and they still force feed the ball to him, right? And he comes down with the football. Celebration Bowl, he almost had a big, catch and double coverage, but also had 3 touchdowns in that game, right? And again, Jackson State was heavily favored in that game. They had no answer for Shaquan Davis. So I know Travis Williams will definitely be looking at that film, seeing what type of matchups he will, put with Shaquan Davis. Will Devontae Brown be manned up with him? Will they go, bracket coverage? Will they have a guy over the top over him? Because again, this is a team that will max protect. They'll keep 2 tight ends and block it up, and they'll take a shot with Shaquan Davis. And Kendra Flowers is a guy that was a transfer from Wake Forest. Has some bursts. Nice game, plays with power as well. Was banged up a little bit. I think had a concussion in the Celebration Bowl, so didn't play the second half there. But he averages over 4 yards a carry and had over 800 yards rushing. So they have some playmakers on this team.
When we go over to the UCF side, and obviously the big question coming in for UCF on offense, quarterback.
Yeah.
What are we going to see from John Rice Plumlee, who's won the job over Mikey Keene? Give us your take on this. What are we going to see from him in Gus Malzahn's offense?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were surprised. I think I was even surprised, right? Mikey Keene can spin the ball. I think he played really well after Dylan Gabriel went down last year. I think he was really coming into his own as a freshman playing last year. What you got with Mikey Keene as far as throwing the ball down the field. Now, the athletic ability, we know John Rice Plumlee is second to none when it comes to that on this team. He might be the second or third fastest player on this team, right? Not just on offense, on this team. This is a guy that had the rushing record at Ole Miss his freshman year at the quarterback position. So that's the thing about Gus Malzahn. If you look at the history, with Nick Marshall and other quarterbacks he's had, right? He wants a guy that's mobile back there, right? So I see a lot of quick game in this offense. You saw a lot of it last year with them trying to get Ryan O'Keefe and some screens and some end arounds. You're going to see some of that, right? They're going to run the football. Gus wants to set a physical tone in this game and throughout the season as we get ready to move on to the Big 12. So I think he's going to, use all 3 of those running backs. Talk about Isaiah Bowser coming back this year. What he did in that Boise State game last year was unheard of. 30-plus carries, over 170 yards, and then finishing it up versus, Florida, over 155 yards in that game. Also, Johnny Richardson, he's going to be the change of pace back. 800, totally over 800 yards last year rushing the ball. And then, Mark Anthony Richards is a guy I think complements is a combination of the two together, guy that can, run with some speed and also play with some power as well. So I think first and foremost, this team is going to run the ball. I think RPO is going to be big for John Rice Plumlee because he gives the threat of being able to run with his legs, right? So as far as maybe running a lot of zone, split zone, and off of that, maybe throwing some slants behind that to keep the defense honest, right? If your cornerback is off, playing off man coverage, they'll throw a slant route to Ryan O'Keefe, throw a slant route to Javon Baker or Kobe Hudson. So I think this is what you're going to see from the offense. And then I think there's going to be some more design quarterback runs. We didn't really do that last year with Dylan Gabriel or, Mikey King, but I think with the skill set that John Rice Plumlee has, I think Gus Malzahn will be more apt to throw in a lot more quarterback run.
One of the things that has been much maligned between last year and this year, offensive line, had depth issues last year, had to replace the entire left side.
Correct.
This year. You've got 2 guys from the transfer portal, Tylen Grable, Ryan Swoboda. How will that impact, at least for game one, when it comes to the offensive game plan?
Yeah, you worry about the continuity, right? Because I think Tyler Grable didn't, start until 2 weeks ago in training camp, right? I know Rebolt and him were having a competition. They were going back and forth. I think he solidified Grable about 2 weeks ago. So the good thing about Grable is, right, he's an FCS All-American, right? He's played a lot of football. Swoboda as well has played a lot of football. These are transfer guys that have played a lot of football. Now, your interior three, Sam Jackson, is a guy that's moved up and down the offensive line his whole career. So you don't worry about that as much because he's been inside before, right next to Matt Lee. And then, Paule, Lokahi Paule, let me get that right before Thursday. He's a guy that's played a lot of football, and he's comfortable in there with Matt Lee. So I mean, the interior three I think is the most important anyway, because that's the quickest way to get pressure on the quarterback is up the middle. Right, those three guys have been in the UCF program forever, right? At least 3 years together. So Sam Jackson, Paule, and then Matt Lee have been constants up front. Now you have your two transfers on the outside, right? But these guys have played at a high level. And again, Grable was a FCS All-American. Swoboda has played. It was an offensive lineman of the week in the ACC. This guy's played a lot of football. So I think they'll be fine there. I just think it's about continuity and just meshing and gelling together, knowing, protections. And Matt Lee is good at that, calling out protections. And then, knowing how the inside guy is going to set, if you got the inside, you got to kick inside and get back out if you're Grable or Swoboda. I think that's just reps. They'll get better with that throughout the year. I think game one, this will be a good test to see with, two guys on the edge for South Carolina State that can bring some heat off the edge. This will be a good test for them as they get ready to play out this game and then FAU and then Louisville and then get ready into conference play. I think naturally this team will get better on the offensive line specifically as they get more reps throughout the game.
So let me ask you real quick. You being a defensive lineman, you've been there, done that. Is there such thing as too tall for an offensive lineman? UCF now has 2 6'10" offensive linemen. You'd think you'd be playing basketball at that point.
You don't see it rarely, right? You're 6'7" every once in a while. You see that, 6'8" maybe. I think Jordan Mailata is around 6'7", 6'8" for Philadelphia. It's not a routine thing. It just depends on can these guys bend. That's what it comes down to. Like, how flexible are you? Can you bend? How athletic can you move? So I think that's what it comes down to. Because when you got guys like a speed rush and use the ghost rush where they fake like they're going to stab you in the chest and then dip under your arm, that's when you're concerned about bigger guys. But it just depends on how flexible guys are. And I think this will be an early test again with these, two edge guys. Jablonski Green's FCS preseason All-American. He can bring some heat off the edge. Patrick Godbolt is another guy who's about 235, 240. He can bring some speed off the edge. This will be a good test for those tall offensive tackles.
Who is the biggest guy you ever went up against?
It's a good question. Andre Giroux, probably. Yeah. Center from the Dallas Cowboys.
What sort of problems did he give you any?
Well, it just depends, right? Because guys that are usually bigger, they can't move as well, right? Mm-hmm. I went against Carl Nix from the Saints. He was massive, and Jabari Evans when they were at the Saints. Now both of those guys could actually move at that size, which should have been illegal. But it just depends. If a guy is overly big and he can't move, then when you start stunting and slanting on him, there's issues for the offensive line. Yeah. But if you're more of a gap scheme team, right, and you're double teaming, then it's an issue for the defensive line. So it just depends on the scheme and what you're playing, because when you take something away, right, when a guy has a lot of power, right, but can he move in space? That's another thing. Is he susceptible in pass rush, right? If I get him on this island, can he dance with me? So those are the things you look at, right? It's not all about size in the NFL.
Let me ask you about the UCF side football. That's true. Yeah. Let me ask you about the UCF side on defense, because right now it looks like the defensive line looks really good. I love what Ricky Barber's been doing. Yeah. He looks like he's going to be a real problem for offenses to deal with. I think you talk about the secondary, Devontae Brown and Justin Hodges and all those guys. That looks pretty set. The one question that we kind of had coming in was the linebacking. Like it was a little bit in flux. What are you seeing from that group?
I mean, the transfer portal, right? The transfer portal can help you. It can hurt you. But I think UCF, even though they lost Dylan Gabriel and, Atamalala, I think I said that right. I think they still won when it came to the transfer portal, right? You're talking about Kamori Gamble at tight end, and then Jason Johnson was again a sophomore All-American at Eastern Illinois. Brandon Jennings, another guy that transferred from Maryland, who's a really good player. I've heard good things during training camp about these guys. I think, like you, that was the concern last year, because the depth was hurt there at linebacker last year, and we were worried what was going to happen this year coming into the season. Well, it seems like they got two good guys to fill in. I mean, Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste is going to be the guy that's going to hold this defense together in the middle, right? This will be his show. Before, he had to kind of share it with, Nate Evans, and then also, Tatum Bethune last year. But this year it'll be his show. He'll be running the defense. And you got a guy like Jason Johnson who has a lot of experience, even though at a lower level. This is a guy that, again, was a sophomore All-American. Brandon Jennings, played at a Big Ten school in Maryland. So these are guys that have experience, right? And they're coming in with experience. Now you actually have depth at the linebacker position. So Lord forbid if one guy does get dinged up, you actually have another guy that can come in and play at a high level. And I think that was an issue last year for the Knights, right? When Jean-Baptiste went down or Tatum Bethune went down, you're like, oh Lord, who's coming into play?
Yeah, like, Armstrong too. When he went down too. That
exactly. And now you actually have some depth there where you don't feel too comfortable, but you feel a lot better than you did last year.
Yeah. Let me ask you about this first game. There's no real preseason, obviously, in college, but what do you, as a player, right? I mean, you're playing against. It's not a conference game.
You got to take everybody serious, man.
Yeah, you can't. You don't want to get Appalachian stated, like what they did against Michigan. So
I mean, you got to think we used to be that school, right?
Right.
When I was here, we were that school, and then people started fearing us my senior year. They didn't want to put us on the schedule anymore.
I know.
So you can't take anybody lightly. You guys stated it in the beginning, right? This is a team that won in the Celebration Bowl. They won the MEAC last year, won the HBCU championship last year. They have some talented guys. They have some guys that will play at the next level. I think Jablonski Green and also Shaquan Davis have the opportunity, maybe even Kendra Flowers. Again, he actually played at Wake Forest, right, as a running back. Yeah. Maybe, those three guys have a chance to play at the next level. So these guys, if I'm them, because I know I used to be them, right? When I was at UCF, we wanted to go in and knock those dudes off. So when you're playing a team like this, you can't let them linger around, right? You can't let them stick around and gain confidence, because then you're in for a dogfight in the third and fourth quarter.
So I got let's change directions a little bit. You're leading into this broadcast. You did radio with Mark for a while, and then you switched over to. How did you convert from one to the other? Because obviously, you do radio, you have to paint a picture, and you have to describe things a lot differently than you can when you have the screen in front of you and you can see what the people see.
Yeah, I think that's what helped me in this transition, right? It's a lot smoother when you're doing radio, because like you said, in radio, you have to paint the picture. There is no visual there, right? On TV, there's a visual so people can actually see what you're talking about. So I think that gave me a leg up as far as making the transition from radio to TV, because I had the experience of being able to paint the picture for the listener, because they weren't there. They weren't in the stadium, right? Now on TV, I have different graphics and things like that, but I still treat it as if I'm on the radio, right? Because I want to break it down that simply for the easiest fan to understand, and also give them some knowledge maybe they didn't know going into the game. So, I mean, I think that transition for me was always going to be there. I always wanted to do this. I always wanted to call games. I just knew that I needed to take that step in radio first before I made that step straight to the booth, because, certain things, once you do it, they're in pen. They're forever, right? So I wanted to do it the right way. I wanted to make sure I had enough experience where I felt comfortable to come into this situation. And it's been a blast, man. I thoroughly enjoy calling games, man. There's nothing like it.
Last question for you before we let you go here. You played until 2007 at UCF. We were just starting in Conference USA. We are less than a year now from joining the Big 12. When you think about how far Andrew and I graduated about the same time that you came in, we graduated about 2005.
I graduated in 2006.
2006, okay. Well, yeah. But we were there for the MAC days, yeah. And my freshman year, we were a D1 independent. So now you see how far the program has come from your time as a player to now being ready to go into playing in the Big 12. I mean, it's one thing for us as fans to see it, right? But when you look back at where the program was for the players and as a player, and to see where it's about to go now, what emotions come to mind? What are the thoughts that go through your mind when you see how, that this is really happening now?
Proud is the word that comes to mind, right? You stated it, right? My first year was 2004. We were in the MAC. Then we went to Conference USA the next year. And the very first year, we went to the conference championship. Now, we ended up losing at home to Tulsa, but we got our revenge my senior year, right? We beat Tulsa at home in the bounce house. The first year the bounce house was open. Just from the MAC to Conference USA was a big step. Conference USA to the American. And again, it seems like every time we move up in conference, we win the conference that first year. So I'm not saying anything about the Big 12 next year. I'm just saying if history repeats itself, because the first year we were in the American, nobody gave us a chance. Louisville was just supposed to win that conference outright.
Yeah.
And we won it and ended up going to the Fiesta Bowl and smoking Baylor that year. It's just been a dream come true. It was the reason why I wanted to go to UCF. I wanted to start a tradition of something and have the history of the other schools that are in Florida now. Again, our history has been a lot better than theirs in recent years. We're not going to talk about that. Facts are facts. We're the best team in Florida. They can say all this, we got this championship and that. Yeah, but you also been around for 100 years. What have you done lately? Okay. But that was part of the reason why I wanted to come to UCF. George O'Leary, my freshman year when he was recruiting me, was telling me, we're going to get an on-campus stadium. I'm from Tampa. USF didn't have that, right? So that was a big thing. Like for me to be able to be at UCF and actually see, everything that was promised come true. And not only come true, in my senior year come true and us win the conference that year. That was amazing. And then, he told us we're going to get an indoor facility. We were the first Florida school. People don't talk about this. We were the first Florida school to have an indoor facility. Now, you usually don't think you would need one in Florida, but as much as it lightning and rains and storms, you need an indoor facility. And we were the first ones. And then everybody else, follows suit after that. So we're trendsetters at UCF. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to come there. I had an offer from Florida last minute. I didn't want to go there. I hated Florida, matter of fact. But, at UCF, I know I could build something. And to see where it is now and everything I envisioned, that's why I came to UCF, right? To start that tradition. Now you see the banners when you walk into the stadium. That was part of the reason why I came to UCF. And I'm just ecstatic now. Honestly, I want us to go to the ACC so we could take that over. And I think it would be easier for travel. But, the Big 12 is a major come up for us. And the good thing is we'll still have a year with Texas and Oklahoma in there too. So, if we do win the conference, people can't say anything.
Oh man, I hope we get another shot at Texas, man.
100%.
Oh my God.
That game and the Mississippi State game still haunt me to this day.
Oh, geez. Well, we're thankful for, obviously we're thankful for your time that you gave us here. We're thankful for everything that you've done for UCF, not just on the field, but off of it. You are everywhere. I Am Athlete on Sirius XM. CBS Sports HQ. He'll be calling the game on Thursday night for ESPN Plus. Where else can UCF fans find you, Leger?
Those are the three things I'm doing mostly this year. I've had to turn some other things down. It's been a blessing. But I don't want to, I don't want to stretch my.
That's a nice position to be in, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't want to stretch myself too thin. I'm blessed to be in this position, but I also want to be my best self while I'm performing. So yeah, CBS HQ, I'll be doing college and NFL analysis with them. 5-day-a-week show. I Am Athlete tonight, 7 to 9 Eastern on Sirius XM channel 82, Mad Dog Sports Radio. I am the host of that show. And then every Saturday, man, calling college football games for ESPN. So yeah, it's been a blessing.
I love the stuff you've been doing with I Am Athlete, by the way. That is such a great franchise, man. And you guys do such a great job of taking people like us behind the curtain. We love that stuff.
That's what it is. We call it the locker room. We want to take you into the locker room.
Gosh, that's great. Leger Douzable, you can find him on Twitter as well. He's pretty active. LegerDouzable. Leger, thank you so much for your time. I'll see you Thursday night, all right?
Definitely. Thank you, Jeff and Andrew, for having me.
Thanks to Dooz. I'm so glad we finally got him on the show after all this time. I like I said, I've seen him in the radio booth next to me in the PA booth all the time. And it's and we communicate non-verbally sometimes. And it's nice to actually talk to him. Guy played with the Giants, played with the Jets, knows his way around the Garden State just like I do. So I'm hoping we can have him on again sometime at some point soon. So he's going to be on the mic for the game on Thursday between UCF and South Carolina State. Only spread I could see, gentlemen, UCF minus 35.5, over under 57. That's according to OddsShark. That's all I've been able to pull together. But all right, so let's just I'll let you degenerates handle this. You taking UCF minus the 35.5, Drew, or what? I see that smile.
I'm going 38. I'm going with the 38.
You're going with historical precedent, are you not?
I mean, it's tradition.
38-0 2 years in a row.
It's tradition.
Well, two meetings in a row, I should say.
Ever since Scott Frost got here, it's been nothing but 38s. It covers the spread just barely, and you do enough to get your guys in and out. But being a running offense, I don't think UCF's going to score as often as people think. So I think 38-0 is a fair assessment because they're going to take the brakes off, or take the gas off.
I see 31-0, and of course, in the calm manner that they usually react, UCF fans will see an emergency and firestorm because it wasn't 38.
Eric?
Panic.
In honor of the announcement on Tuesday, UCF will have a Spanish broadcast now for football games. Centro Florida.
That's awesome.
That's right. They are going to have it. It's announced there. The guys that do the Orlando City there, you got Carlos Borges, and we'll be calling the action there with Sergio Ruiz-Torres, the analyst there. So that'll be fun. So I will say Borges is the voice of the Buccaneers on the radio side. Torres does Orlando City on Spanish. So I will say Centro Florida 47, Carolina 10, 37-point margin. 37.
Who say F.A.?
Oh man, I do want to bad memories.
I did want to say, like, it's about I'm happy to see it's about time UCF had a Spanish language broadcast.
You're happy to see it. I mean, nobody's happier than my family. I'll tell you that.
I bet
it's a long time coming. It's overdue.
Eric, where are they going to? Where are we going to be able to hear?
Online on the UCFKnights.com site. I think it's an online broadcast, so I'm sure there's going to be a link for it. So it's cool. I mean, it's cool.
Now let me tell you something. Here's the thing that I love about the broadcast in Espanol is they provide amazing content on big plays, don't they?
We tend to be a little exciting, more exciting calls there.
I walk past the Spanish broadcasting booth at TIAA Bank Field at Jags games. They lose their minds. It's awesome.
I love it. Now we have plenty more to talk about. So we're all in. By the way, I'm going to go with 31-0 because here's why. 3 meetings, 38, 38, 17 adds up to 93. Divided by 3, 31. Average score, 31-0.
That and I said it too, so it has to be right.
Well, yeah. Well, we'll go with that. All right. When we return, lots to talk about. Bryson Turner's going to pop in.
Let's promote our coverage. Before we sign off here.
Before we do that.
Yeah.
All right. So here's what's going on Thursday night. Obviously, I'm going to be a little busy.
Why is that?
Drew, I'm going to be on PA.
Okay.
Drew and Bryson Kyle and Bryson are going to be in the press box for the game. Drew and Eric will be watching the telecast on ESPN Plus.
We're going to be doing a watch along.
All covered on Black and Gold Banneret.
I've never watched a football game with Drew before. I'm looking forward to this. This is why we're doing this. I get to pick his brain for 4 hours as we watch the game. And
wait. What platform are you going to do this on?
YouTube channel on Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel.
So you're going to go live on YouTube.
We're going to watch the game. We're also going to break down Drew's draft. He has a big, important fantasy football draft during the UCF game, so we're going to help him.
Wait, are we going to have? Is this going to be like the Manning cast? Are we going to have special guest Brian Murphy maybe pop in?
Does that mean I can flick off the camera?
Drew, no comment. Who knows what could happen? We'll have guests. I'm not going to reveal who. It could be. We could have guests on the. Murph likes to do the chat route, which is fine. You're more than welcome, Murph. Whatever you want to do. We'll have some guests there. We'll have some quick analysis on then, and we'll do night shift after the watch along, where we'll give our thoughts, and we'll hope to have Kyle on from somewhere at the stadium. Correct, Kyle?
Yes, sir. That is the goal for me to jump aboard after the post game press conference.
Yep.
They'll jump in from the secret hidden basement.
And send your comments instead of tweeting out your thoughts. Just send us on our chat. We'll try to answer it interactively. We'll try to have coverage of this during the game, after the game. We're experimenting with this. We'll see how it goes, and we may do a few more of these down the road. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, have some fun, especially if you don't have ESPN Plus.
Right.
The game is not on television; it's on ESPN Plus. So if you don't have it, come join us.
Yes, and make sure that you follow us on all of our social media channels as well. Twitter handle, of course, UCF Banneret _SBN, UCF Banneret _SBN. Also, Derek and Noah will be on the field getting photos. They're going to be posting some stuff as the game goes along on our Instagram, which is Black and Gold Banneret as well. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. It's all here. We have it all. So you won't be able to get away from us this Thursday night.
We are your one-stop shop for all things UCF.
That's a fact.
Thank you.
Even a few post game, even a few press conference clips in the Instagram as well. There, Jeff.
Yes, indeed. And by the way, those and also Noah's been killing it on like Kristen Scott already is like the leading nominee for like photo of the year, which we'll talk about in a little bit when we return, because we're going to recap UCF soccer, then and women getting moving their seasons right along, and also we're going to preview volleyball getting started. And some announcements for the Ring of Honor for UCF Volleyball. It's going to be a celebratory season in the venue this year. That and plenty more when we return. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast, and we're back after this. We are back here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff, Eric, Drew, Kyle, Bryson Turner is going to be joining us here in this segment as we talk about what's been going on in soccer and volleyball. I want to start with the results that have been coming in. Start with men's soccer, and ELO 1-1 on the year after the 1-0 loss at number 15 Wake Forest, game where UCF looked like they were right with it, made one mistake. That's all it takes against the number 15 team in the country. But then came back and got their first win of the season against North Florida on Monday night, which was the night before we're recording this podcast. They were down 1-0 in that game too, but something lit underneath them, and they got the job done in the late in the second half. They got an equalizer from Mile Hayes in the 64th minute, which got them going, and then 12 minutes later, Mauricio Villalobos took advantage of a catastrophic mistake by UNF's defender to put home the winner, 2-1 the final. So your evaluation, Eric, right now of the start for UCF men's soccer at this point?
Well, it's a work in progress. There's a lot of new faces, so a lot of pieces to all over the place. They've had some injuries. As we found out, Luca Dorado had an injury prior to the start of the season, so he's playing catch up. Gino Vivi
got hurt. He got hurt during the game. Did you see that one?
He got banged up there as well.
He was hobbling around for the last 15 minutes of the match.
Yeah, Gino Vivi got banged up in the Wake Forest game, which what they called him knocked up a little bit, whatever that. Don't know what that means. But they were trying to avoid not playing him in the North Florida game, but they actually brought him off the bench because they just couldn't get anything going in the offensively. So I think they're still kind of all over the place. I think Scott Calabrese, they turned the ball over a ton. They got to clean that up. Even if you go to Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel, you get the entire press conferences for the men's soccer and women's soccer from this weekend. But Bryson, I want to go to you on this because you and I have talked about that, and you were at the presser. To me, the big positive for UCF men's soccer, one of the biggest questions this year, the goalkeeping situation. We saw how inconsistent that was last year, and I know it's just 2 matches, Bryson, but I think right now they've got their goalkeeper.
Thank you. Thank you to the soccer gods, because UCF men's soccer has a goalkeeper. I remember thinking last season, oh man, at this point, just get Caroline Delisle and have her goalkeeper the men's team, because they need a solid person to man the net. And now they have one in true freshman Juanvi Munoz from Spain. He already has 12 saves on the season, Eric. Just last night, he had 7. I mean,
now, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
it's a good thing because it kept UCF in the game. Like, let's not kid ourselves here. Last night was a sloppy game. No, Mauricio Villalobos himself in the press conference mentioned that it was kind of disorganized. Now, granted, the pitch was very muggy because it rained really hard before the game, but it just overall was a sloppy night. And North Florida even outshot UCF with shots on goal. North Florida had 8 shots on goal while UCF only had 5. So Juanvi Munoz was very key in manning that net responsibly and keeping UCF in this game. And so I'm just glad that is someone there that can just be that rock, because that's how UCF women's soccer stayed in games last year with Caroline Delisle. And now the men's soccer, there's just, they can mess up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like while they're able to work some stuff out, they have a man in there in Munoz that can just be that last line of defense.
Now, I want Drew to jump in on one thing, because look, we've had so much conversation about the football jerseys. Anybody can, breaking that down. Everybody thinks they're a football jersey analyst. But what makes Drew Glukoff different from everybody is that he can break down every sport jersey. So, Drew.
My man has the knowledge. Let's drop it here, Drew.
He has the knowledge and he has the jerseys. Thoughts? UCF men's soccer jerseys. Let's go.
Well, I love the fact that Terry Mohajir, and when they were doing the reveal, dropped the nugget that there was going to be new soccer kits on their way. And you have to be excited because even before the redesign of the font and everything else, the soccer kits that UCF's been pumping out have been fantastic. A combination of clean but modern. And I love the fact that UCF has created their own font. People don't realize the number font that they've been using across all sports going into 2022 is actually an inverse of Michigan State's font.
Mm. And Jimmy Skiles said that too, right?
Yeah. with more italicizing. So now it's something a little more unique, and it's taking time for all the sports to pick up on it. We're dealing with supply chain issues and all this other stuff. I mean, heck, at the kickoff luncheon for football, they were still decked in their old uniforms. So there's still more to come. But I mean, be excited that UCF is working on this rebrand now with the new numbers and all that stuff ahead of next year. They're joining the Big 12. I think this is a form of growing up, going to the next level. I really enjoy it. And plus, UCF signed a new 2-year extension. It's kind of a bridge contract with Nike. That's part of why this redesign is going on, as part of that deal. This is just to really hold over until after the conference move, as well as the fact of you're dealing with a lot of supply and economic forces outside right now. Supply chain issues, dollars are a little tight amongst a lot of companies. And as Terry Mohajir said, now is not the time to move. So, I mean, you can tell, reading between the lines, they're looking seriously at someone else. Read in between the lines.
Yeah, I can read. So, but thumbs up, thumbs down, men's soccer.
Oh, thumbs up easily.
Thumbs up.
I enjoy the design work that has really gone into the men's soccer kits. I mean, even some of the more unconventional, like the gray ones that they had, the kind of like charcoal striped ones, I think they look really cool. I wish I had one. Please send me one.
I'm not gonna lie, I would love to wear a UCF soccer jersey. I would love to wear it. Yeah. So right now that team's 1-1. They play Friday at 7 at FGCU. You fans down in Fort Myers and Naples get to hang. Drew, you gonna head down there? Not too far from you, right?
I mean, Naples, a couple hours down the road, but I mean,
Fort Myers. Come on, it's not that
Fort
bad.
Myers about an hour and a half. I mean, it's straight down I-75. So I mean,
yes.
I mean, if Coach Calabrese had a jersey for you, would you go?
Yeah.
There's the answer.
There you go. Coach Calabrese, if you're listening.
That's a dumb question.
Monday, they're back home. They face California Riverside. This is that back-to-back against Big West teams from California that they play, but it's Monday at home against Riverside, and then Friday they go all the way out to Irvine, California to play UC Irvine. So these are two pretty significant matches that they've got coming up to try and kind of like what Scott was telling us, right, Eric, before the start of the season. It's got, they got that game against Wake, and then they're going to kind of calibrate things over these 4 games before they start conference play September 17th against Temple, right around the corner all of a sudden. So
yeah, and like I said, there's a lot of moving pieces with the new faces, trying to figure out who fits with what. Look, in the Wake Forest match, they were inches away from maybe tying it up and get a draw out there. So
yeah, right there at the last second too, man. Ooh.
Yeah, tough call there. So, but this is going to take some time. We got to check back in a few weeks. Once we get to conference, let's see where this team is.
All right. Now on the women's side, they took care of Florida Gulf Coast on Sunday in a 3-1 victory. Again, slightly weather affected, but they got the job done there. This team right now stands at 2-0-2. Now the 2 draws was Sunday, August 21st at LSU, the 1-1 draw there. But also, which we talked about on the last show, but also then they went Thursday out to Orem, Utah, which is 4,700 feet elevation. And got a scoreless draw out of that one. By the way, let's give credit to Utah Valley. That team's picked number 2 in the WAC this year. That was a tougher match physically, Eric, than I think a lot of us may have been expecting, because Utah Valley's not a bad team. It's the altitude, and I thought there were times when UCF looked a little sluggish out there, coming from basically sea level to a mile high, but they get out of there with 1 point.
Well, let's bring Bryson in, because Bryson, you spoke to Daria Rajaei about that. That was a big topic about the Utah Valley, about the altitude. The trip was not the friendliest. The field was not great. What did Daria tell you in the media there?
Basically what you said. The altitude adjustment just is something that you have to deal with when you go into those kinds of environments. And it just didn't end up not working out this time around. I mean, I think one time, I don't know if it was on or off podcast, but we mentioned, you talked about basketball being like road games are things that you have to steal. And I think that road games, in a sense, in a lot of sports are sort of like that. And in the case of soccer, I think it's kind of in a very similar fashion, especially when there's such differing environments from going sea level to mile high. The good news is that they got the draw, so at least they're still undefeated. It's not the most ideal thing, as Coach Tiff mentioned, I kind of alluded to when I talked to her after the most recent home match. But at least you come out of there. It's not the worst case scenario. Let's put it that way.
Right. Kind of reminds me of when we would go out to play UTEP, right, Eric?
Well, it's going to be interesting.
I say UTEP was always a problem because of the altitude.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Remember, they're going to go to Provo and play BYU in future in all these sports. So you wonder how much of a factor the trip, that's going to be. That's something to monitor as we get into the Big 12 on all that.
There are ways they can train to handle that stuff. You have those masks that you can wear that cut some of the air down a little bit. So you can build yourself up to handle thinner air. If you look at the schedule, this is a one-off. They don't
sounds like one of those things that a Big 12 budget might get us. What do you think?
Exactly. They don't go into the Rocky Mountains the rest of the way. I mean, you have at Texas and Austin, you have Tulsa in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's as close to the Rockies as you get. So you're not going to have a huge elevation issue the remainder of the regular season. Obviously, once postseason happens, who knows?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But they did come back. Yeah, go ahead, Bryson.
I want to make sure that I give a shout out to this, because this one, with all the attention we've been talking about with McKenna Melville going into the season and chasing the all-time kills lead, we have actually been might have had this sneak up on us a little bit, because Kristen Scott, she scored 2 goals in the 3-1 victory over FGCU. That makes it 27 career goals for her, 3 shy of 30, which would put her in the top 10 all-time UCF women's soccer goal scorers. The last player to get in on that list was Nicolette Radovic in 2012.
Yeah, so, Nicolette Radovcic. Yep.
Radovcic. Yeah, I read that wrong. But it's been a decade since we've had someone over the course of their career score as many goals as Kristen. And with how many goals she scored, if she stays on pace, then I think we could be seeing her crack the top 10 in a little later on in the year. And
well, let's talk about that game against Florida Gulf Coast, because UCF was down 1-0, got 3 goals in that game. And also, let's not throw out Mallory Olson too, who's also developed into a scoring threat for this team. But Kristen Scott, 3 goals on the season so far, and has and like we said also earlier, is in the early running for photo of the year for Black Gold Banneret with her goal celebrations all over the place, which are just epic, but by any means. We're looking now at a team that's 2-0-2. By the way, both soccer teams, is this right, Bryson? Both soccer teams receiving votes in the college soccer in the United Coaches poll.
Yes, ironically enough, from what I've seen, both of them. Just double checking here.
While you're checking on that, I just wanted to point out too that UCF, at least at this moment, or as they're heading into as they progress in their schedule, they're coming up against.
They're going to go to North Florida.
They're going to North Florida, and this was a good win against an FGCU team that was picked second in the A-Sun.
Yes,
missed the NCAA's by a hair.
This is a talented team with one of the best.
That's a good team. This is not a cupcake.
No, I mean they got one of the best goal scorers in the country in Louis Lilleback. They're a very talented team. Built, here's my thoughts seeing them in person, calling the match. First of all, this is the best teams Tiff has had there since 17. It's the deep and experienced as advertised. Their back line is the deepest I've ever seen. They don't have, Jeff, a Kanya Plumber type. They don't have that defense that just dominates. But what they do have is a lot of talent, like Kellis Barton to transfer out of Washington State. They could go 4 or 5 deep. We haven't even seen Ariel Young yet, who's out with an injury. Daria Rajaei, the midfielder of the year. She is a phenomenal midfielder. Very underrated. Could go down as one of the best midfielders ever. The questions here as we moving forward is what's going to be the right pairings for her with Rajaei. They're trying some different combinations in the midfield. And then you both highlighted the scoring. Kristen Scott's a great scorer. She's going to, right now, she's 3 goals away from 30 goals in her career. She'll finish in the top 8 minimum. Who's going to be the score? Where's the scoring coming from other than Kristen Scott when you face this tough teams coming up? Is it going to be a Mallory Olson? Is it a Mia Asenjo? Is it a combination of them?
Asenjo is kind of off to a slow start, right? But Mallory Olson has picked up.
Well, her size in the box is a weapon. I think that's what they like there. So, look, this is a good team. They're going to North Florida. Then the big one, Sunday night at home, they host nationally ranked Old Miss, who has one of the best goalkeepers in the country, the 2-time reigning SEC goalkeeper of the year. But there's a developing story here, guys, that's under the radar. Sources have told me and Bryson. Tiffany, yes, we do have sources. Tiffany Roberts-Sahadek will not be coaching UCF on Thursday against UNF or the Ole Miss match because she is going to be with Team USA. The U.S. national team has exhibitions with Nigeria, which means, Bryson, who will be in charge?
Her husband. So we still have a Sahadek. It's still a Sahadek.
So like you said, Eric, Thursday, across from the football game, UCF women's soccer plays in Jacksonville at North Florida. So if you're a UCF fan in Jacksonville, you can't make it down for the football opener. You can support UCF women's soccer out at UNF. And then, of course, Sunday, September 4th, 6 p.m. at home against Ole Miss. That game, like you said, is going to be huge. And Bryson, also you're informing me, Maggie Jenkins for UCF has been called up by her native New Zealand national team. Is that right?
Yes, and yes, Maggie. We I haven't seen a lot out of Maggie so far this season from what I've saw. But yes, earlier today I got the notification on my Twitter that Maggie was called up for New Zealand, which is an honor for for anyone to represent their cut to represent.
Kind of a bummer though that the international play is like kind of interfering with the season at this point.
Welcome to soccer. Welcome to soccer. This happens at every
Eric,
level.
we need the 21st century model right now.
I don't think that helps it. Actually,
it would have.
I don't think that helps that one.
Well, I mean, it would have started the season a little later, right? So
it could. So we'll see what happens. By the way, this is very common. I mean, I know it's unique because I know people are going to go, what do you mean she's not going to be coaching the team? This has happened in other sports when you're part of the staff of the U.S. national team. And remember, the World Cup for the women is less than a year away. So it's not like this is an important time for the U.S. national team to figure out who they're going to have for the World Cup, which she will be a part of that staff. And then on Sunday night, Ashley Orkis, that's the name to remember, 2-time goalkeeper of the year in the SEC for Ole Miss against Caroline Delisle, the reigning American Conference goalkeeper of the year. You may not have a better matchup all year in goalkeeping than you're going to have Sunday night, 6 o'clock, Ole Miss, UCF, ESPN Plus. I will have the privilege of filling in and calling that match for that one. Big ramifications. UCF won in Oxford last year. What do we think? John Rhys Plumlee has to make a cameo in this game, right? He has to show up and watch this, doesn't he?
Yeah, but the question is, what's he going to be wearing? UCF gear?
I think he's wearing UCF.
Does you know anything from anybody from Ole Miss on that team? I don't know.
Kyle, get to the bottom of that in the post game when you talk.
Yes, this is important.
This is really what matters.
You never wear the jewelry from the ex while you're married to another. It's very simply put. But hey, let's see if Mr. Plumlee gets that, because we know how good he is on the piano. Okay, he's a romantic chap.
Yeah, but he also has to come back to school the next day.
Yeah,
fair.
Yeah. All right, fair. All right, last word with two in one word, Drew. Women's soccer kit. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
I'm going to go thumbs up, and for the same reason as the men's, it's a very classic design. Now, again, we haven't seen the end of the rebrand. There is more to come. Stay tuned.
All right. Now, another team that we will get an opportunity to see for the first time this year, coming up this weekend, UCF Volleyball. They are actually, as you probably remember from when Todd Dagenet spoke to us earlier this month, they're starting their season about a week later because of the quirk of the calendar, basically. But they will start with the UCF Challenge this weekend. They play 2 matches. They play Friday, September 2nd at 7 p.m. against Syracuse at the venue. And then they play Saturday, 7 p.m. against Kansas State, future Big 12 opponent, to start the season with these 2 matches. I was at the scrimmage this past weekend, checking things out. I will say that, first of all, Syracuse is off to a good start. I think their head coach is Bakir Ganasaratnam, who was at Temple the last few years. But I'm really excited. I think a lot of people are going to be excited to see the new people that are coming in here. In particular, I was just kind of asking around, seeing who's looked the most impressive in camp, and the one player that I think everyone kind of gravitated towards was Abby Hansen, the grad student transfer from Oregon, 6'5" middle blocker. She comes in and is ostensibly taking the place of, Narissa Moravec, who is one of the nation's leaders in blocks last year. But Abby is legit Pac-12 talent. Comes in as a graduate student, understands the system, understands her cues in the system as well. She looked really good during the scrimmage over the weekend. I was also really impressed. I think that Heidi Bondi continues to develop. And Caitlin Grimes, the libero, we know how good she was last year coming in as a true freshman and overtaking that libero position. Playing extraordinarily well. I think she's going to be steady Eddie back there. And then, of course, McKenna Melville and what have you. Yeah, go ahead, Drew.
Well, I want to point out, you mentioned 2 names. You mentioned Bondi and Hansen. They're the tallest 2 players on the team.
Yep.
6'4" and 6'5" respectively. I remember last year, one of the things we talked about, especially against UCLA, was UCF's lack of height, and how UCLA being made a lot of blocks at the net. And so this may be a change. Bondi only a sophomore. There's a lot of time for development there. So maybe this is the start of a change in the direction of the program, where you're starting to get some of that height that you need to be actually competitive on the national level. Like, obviously, with players like Melville, it's you blow through the American. The American is not a strong volleyball conference historically. It hasn't been.
It does punch above its weight class though.
But the weight class is low. I mean, UCF is dominated to the point where it's not even close. Now this year should be a little bit more competitive. All signs have pointed towards it, but when you go to the national level, you start playing against the best. They're the ones with the people 6'3", 6'4" up at the net and making those kind of blocks that you need that height for. We may be starting to see that change. Obviously, it's going to take a little time.
It's going to have to change when they go to the Big 12 because that's where the size.
They're going to get torched.
No, I think that's true. I mean, I think we talked about this last year, like you were saying, Drew. The issue with volleyball and why I thought initially it would be, I forget somebody asked me, but which school or which sport would be the toughest for UCF to compete in right away in the Big 12? And I thought it was volleyball for that reason that you mentioned, is that 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", they don't grow on trees. All right. And they tend to collect in a certain, in a relatively few programs in Division I volleyball. That's your Big 10. I don't know what we're going to have in the Pac-12 now, but
let's assume they're still there for now.
Let's assume and the upper part of the Big 12, right? So look at UCF's roster, who they've had from the American Athletic Conference era, if you will. All right. Jayla Hervey was 6'2", and she was like the tallest outside hitter that we had back in the day. Kia Bright was 5'9", but could jump out of the gym, but she was a unicorn. I've never seen anybody jump so high in my life. Your current outside hitters, okay? You're looking at obviously McKenna Melville, who is she's listed at 6'1". By the way, have you ever stood next to McKenna Melville?
Well, the problem is I'm only 5'9" and change, so I look short.
Like, I don't know what it is about McKenna Melville. Like when you see her out there on the court, she doesn't look tall, but then you stand with her and you're like, God, you're tall.
It's because of the people she stands next to.
Yeah. I mean, and Mackenzie Chambers, right side hitter, 6 feet tall. Stella Kirta, who's on the Greek national team as the backup outside hitter for UCF. She is 6 feet tall. Okay. But you're right. Now look at who's coming in to compete as in the transition to the Big 12. 6'5" middle blocker in Abby Hansen, 6'3" outside hitter in Emily Wilson, who comes over from the University of San Diego. You have obviously Carrie Zumock, grad student from Indiana, 6'3", right side. And then of course we talked about Abby Hansen at 6'5". So now you're starting to see that, and it also used to be like if you had players who, if UCF used to get players who were like 6'4", 6'5", yes, they were tall, but they weren't overly athletic. Now we're starting to see players who are legitimately athletic, 6'4", 6'5", which is incredible when you think about it.
Yeah, these ladies have a resume behind them. It's not like
they're legit.
It's not like a stiff. These are good players. You look at this year. This is going to be a really good year. I can just feel it.
Well, the expectations are high. The expectations are high.
It's the swan song of McKenna Melville. She is a legendary athlete in the annals of UCF athletics. I don't think people realize how good she really is, because she doesn't play a mainstream sport, and that's not fair. But I mean, she's a legend. You're not going to have a player like this.
10 kills Friday night. She joins UCF Hall of Famer Renata Menchikova. 2,000 kills in a career.
Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous.
Could be the last. We may not see this again. She'll likely be, if she stays healthy, she'll be the all-time kills leader by the end of the season. She's about 160 some back. So we know that's the expectations there.
Yeah, 160 some back. I think it's going to be interesting. She was over 600 kills last year. She's averaged over 500 the previous 2 years.
Now they've changed how they do the stats.
2 full years.
Still.
Right. Yeah. Well, here's the thing that's amazing is she's 500, and Bryson, we're going to start Mac Watch here.
Oh, I'm excited for it. I really am.
She's what is it? You said, Eric, 160 some away from Renata Menchikova.
161 from tying the record.
Okay, 161 from tying, 162 from breaking. She's 510 away from 2,500 kills for her career, which would put her top 10 all time in NCAA history.
Bryson,
regardless of era.
Bryson, we're checking on this. We believe she's the active leader in kills coming into the volleyball season.
That makes a lot of sense considering she's in the running for the top 10 all-time NCAA history.
But she's gonna face an equal, if not more, on Saturday night in Kansas State, and Aaliyah Carter, who UCF's gonna have to deal with not just on Saturday, but probably the next couple of years. She's been an all-unanimous first-team All-Big 12 performer. She's their McKenna Melville. So that's going to be the challenge there. They've got a big, 6'5" middle blocker in Sydney Bolding, who is going to be a force for UCF to deal with.
Here you go, Big 12, 6'5" middle blocker.
Right. Yep. Interesting storyline there. Lauren Henkel is their new setter. She's moving from the defensive specialist position to setter. So that's a transition. That's like having a defensive player move to the quarterback position. It's kind of unique. So we'll see how UCF kind of comes up defensive schemes there against Kansas State. And then Syracuse, they're basically starting over. Coach Bakir, 6 players return. That's kind of a rebuild. But in talking to Coach Bakir on Tuesday, he's excited to just see Todd again because they're good friends. So
I will say one underrated thing about McKenna Melville, because look, let's face it, because the kills thing, I mean, that's McKenna's whole bread and butter. That is something that I'm very looking forward to seeing. But one underrated aspect that I'm looking here, McKenna Melville has 226 total blocks in her career. She's not known as a blocker, by the way. But if she has a similar blocking season as she did last year, where she had 84 total blocks, she will be in the top 10 all time in career blocks.
She could be number 1 all time in kills. She's coming into the season. She's number 4 in digs, and could be number 10 in blocks.
Correct.
It's going to be now. Keep in mind, this is going to have to have her have a blocking season like she did last year. Last season was an inordinately good blocking year for her, but if she ends up having a similar year as that, then she will be in the top 10. This is just more of a curiosity, because this is one that I genuinely don't know if she's going to do. But the fact that she even has a shot at doing it, I think goes to tell you just how good McKenna Melville is, that she could potentially be top 10 all time in 3 different stats. She'd be the only person she'd be the only player ever to do that.
Yeah, her stats, her dig stats often get eclipsed by her kill stats, but I mean, she's hard to get the ball pass. Let's put it that way.
She's one of the greatest two-way player I've ever seen.
She's one of 6 UCF players ever to have over 1,000 kills and over 1,000 digs in a career. Tyra Harper and Renata Menchikova are 2 of those. That's probably the conversation for the greatest volleyball player all time. It's Melville, Menchikova, Harper. If you go different positions, obviously Jordan Pingle's the greatest libero. Jenny Frank's the greatest setter. Maybe Elena Sarden is maybe the greatest middle blocker. But that's the conversation for volleyball history.
Melville comes in the unanimous selection, by the way. They got this out right before we did our podcast. Or right after they got unanimous selection for preseason player of the year in the American, unanimous preseason all conference. Also preseason all conference for UCF, Claudia Dillon, 6'2" middle, and Amber Olsen, setter, heading into her final season. UCF was picked number 1 in the American for the 4th consecutive season. Again, they've won 72 of their last 75 matches against American Athletic Conference opponents. And they expect to do the same this year. And one little, or not little, big addition for UCF this year. Some more additions to the Ring of Honor, which is right up our alley, Eric Lopez, because the last couple of years, Coach Dagenet told us, because of COVID, because of everything's happening, they didn't get the chance to honor former players and former coaches the way they have been doing. And volleyball's been very good about this, of honoring alumni in their sport in the building. There is a Ring of Honor that's up there. We've honored the 2003 team, the 1978 national champions. The Jenny Frank is up there. Renata Menchikova is up there. But we're making up for lost time with 4 new inductions into the UCF Volleyball Ring of Honor, just announced today. Coach Meg Fitzgerald, now known as or previously Meg Collado, she will be going into the Ring of Honor. Tanya Jarvis, congratulations to Tanya, head coach at Bishop Moore High School, who had an amazing 4-year career in the time when we were students at UCF. She and I actually shared the same exact years, 01 to 05. Delana Sardin, who we mentioned earlier, who was a great star in UCF's 2013 run to the American Championship. And Emily Watts, who also played in that early 2000s team, was a teammate of Tanya Jarvis under Meg Fitzgerald for that three-peat 01 to 03 in the Atlantic Sun. The four of them are all being honored, and they're staggering this on different dates too. Is that right, Eric?
Yeah, Watts will be honored on Saturday night during the Kansas State match. I don't know, when do they usually do it? Do they do it in before, usually after, in the middle?
Usually they do it. I think they've done it at half. I was just about to say at halftime during the match break, but the last couple of years, remember, they've shortened the time.
Right.
In the break between the second and the third set. So I think we might see it done before. I'm not 100% sure.
Tune in and find out. We'll find out.
Yeah.
So she'll be honored Saturday night. I believe Tanya, speaking to her, because I'm friends with her, she just gave birth, by the way. So she's on actually paternity leave right now. But she should be ready to go when they honor her. I believe it's October 16th. I believe they have a match that day. You can check there. And then obviously Meg Fitzgerald is going to be doing the majority of the volleyball matches for UCF on ESPN Plus. Will be honored in November 4th, from what she told me, and then
pick a date, whatever you want, Meg. We'll get you in.
And
there.
then Delana Sartin.
It's not like she's not going to be there,
right? And then Delana Sartin also will be there in November as well. So I always love that. I know Bryson is preparing a lengthy sheet of future candidates that need to be added to the Ring of Honor. He's got Todd on the hot list over some names he thinks that he should add in the future years. That'll be fun conversation, but down the road.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that these four are going. I'll tell you, I honestly can't get over how old I feel that I'm seeing Emily and Tanya get inducted into the Ring of Honor at UCF, but I'm so proud of them. And Delana, who, like, Delana is like a serious mover and shaker, man. Like she is in the she's in the coaching search business, in the coaching talent search business, and administrative search. She's really something, man. I mean, as great as she was as a volleyball player, she's just as great at doing that.
She will likely be the next volleyball player to get inducted to the Hall of Fame at UCF. So that would be my prediction there in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's exciting. So this is an exciting season for UCF volleyball in particular.
Will Drew be happy next week with volleyball's gear? Jeffrey, you know the insides on the gear.
I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen the new duds yet, man.
I mean, you can't go with what you've seen at the scrimmage. Obviously, that's old stuff. And much like soccer, it's new to them, but that was designed before the rebrand was fully in place.
Yeah.
So again, things are still moving. So yeah, you may see some new duds, but they're not like the new. They're kind of like the quasi new.
Right. So we'll see. I think, Drew, like you, I'm looking forward to when the Olympic sports all get the new font.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. Yeah. I mean, we'll see them in basketball because they have a little bit of time to get it ready, but these other fall sports really didn't have time to get them out the door. So we're still seeing the old Nighthead. We're still seeing the old font. And you know what? I liked the old grays, the I guess you call it pewter color that volleyball wore. I thought it worked for them. It was a good look. And I think those are going to be going away because, as we know, Terry Mohajer thinks that pewter looks like pajamas. His words, not mine.
Listen, we'll see. I mean, we're leaning into black and gold as we should. I mean, we're Black and Gold Banneret, right? I mean,
now I'd like to point out that we're not gold and black banneret. We are black and gold. That's black primary, gold is the accent, which is why gold tops in football should never ever happen again. They should stay gone.
Fair.
I'm just looking forward to this new feature with Drew we have on the podcast where he breaks down the Olympic jerseys, Olympic sports jerseys, and football jerseys every week.
Yeah, we're gonna have
fashion.
We're gonna have to see more. Gonna have to see more. Now, I want to tell you, as far as my collection goes, I do have volleyball, I do have soccer, I have baseball, lacrosse.
You have a volleyball jersey?
I do.
Whose jersey?
I'd have to look up the name because it's an old CUSA one.
What number is it? Do you know the number?
What number? Yeah.
I believe it was number 4, but I'm gonna have to go take a look again.
If it's 4, it might be Andy Youngblood, maybe.
No, Andy wore 5.
I'll have to show it to you guys, but I mean, I remember when both soccer teams, the men and the women's, each had their Citronaut, their first ever Citronaut uniforms, which still had the old orange squeezer. I do have one of each of those. I mean, you pick up things here and there over time, but I just want to point out, I do have a softball in there. So women's basketball, men's basketball. It doesn't always have to be about football. There's so much more. The work that the equipment team goes into the designing of these, they deserve a lot of credit. It's not just one sport, and we forget that at times.
I want to emphasize that too, is that the fact that they brought this design, the design level in-house, right, is such a huge advantage. I mean, it speaks to the culture that UCF has developed. It's not this boilerplate stuff that you might see from other schools.
Well,
we're out there owning our brand.
Yeah, they used to do the boilerplate stuff because that's what they could afford.
Right. But the fact that we've leaned into that and are putting, UCF students who are creative and just these remarkably creative people, to work on this particular project. I'm so proud of that.
Well,
as
the
an
whole
alumnus.
brand advancement team, Jimmy Skiles and his team,
Yeah,
and all that stuff. They have done nothing short of phenomenal work.
And this is their calling card now.
Listening to how they speak about and doing the process, man, I wish I was a fly on the wall for some of that stuff, because that's stuff that I thoroughly enjoy. I may have the artistic drawing ability of a dead cat. I could draw stick figures poorly, but I can appreciate the other aspect of it, the artistic aspect, the materials that are used. I mean, this is all part of it. The technology that's improved over the years. The fact it's not just a jersey. It's also for hydration and moisture and body temperature. There's so much that goes into a uniform. It's not just a logo on a shirt, and that's part of the modernization that we've seen. You look at our jerseys from 10 years ago, 15 years ago. The technology has changed so much.
Yeah. In such a short period of time. You
take that old Adidas, the old 2005 Adidas, got one. You put it up against 2018, 2019, UCF football jersey, I got one. You can feel the difference. You can see the difference. You can, it's different when you're actually able to touch it and understand what goes into it.
Who made the jerseys back when we were in school? Is it Russell Athletic?
It was Russell Athletic. We dropped them after 2003 and went to Adidas. And I gotta admit, I actually liked the black Adidas with the gold stripe on the shoulder. I actually liked those. I didn't like so much when they went to the gold one. I mean, they had the 1 year novelty aspect. It was new, it was different. Oh, it was cool, it's the gold ones. And then by 2006, bring back the blacks. and so they brought him for that one game against Pitt. It was so bad. Larry's like, never again. And then in 2009, Adidas comes out with this minimalistic black jersey with just a little bit of gold on the cuffs. And it was a real clean look. They wore it twice. It was the least worn jersey in modern UCF history. They were used twice. In that one against the big one against Houston, and then the follow-up against Tulane. I actually own 2 of those just because they're so hard to find. That I think was a precursor of things to come. if we stayed with them and the Marcus Jordan fiasco never happened. I think we were starting to see a little bit of improvement in the quality, but we never really got to fully realize it. We never saw what the new contract was going to bring us because it got killed before it ever started.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. It's right now we're not in that full manufacturer transition yet, but we will get the chance to see. We will get the chance to see the new football jerseys, which also equipment revealed the jerseys today. We're going all black, white helmets on Thursday night.
Very clean. Look.
Yep.
Very clean. This is probably one of my favorite color combinations is the white, black. It's very clean. I like the black top, black bottom.
I love bringing in Latavius Murray to check it out, and they put him in it. Did you see that video? That was great.
Oh yeah. Well, they started
oh
doing
my
that
God.
earlier. They did stuff like that last year with some alums, if I recall correctly.
Did they do that? I can't.
Where they were actually doing the dressing of different uniforms. I think that's really cool. Gus Malzahn has done such an outstanding job of really getting the alumni base back to UCF.
And Carlos
McCants
too. My God.
The fact they got Dante Culpepper kind of front and center, and he basically wanted to lay low for a long time. Now he's kind of embracing, starting to become a face again.
Dude, you know what I'm thinking, right?
I'm thinking you need to find a way to bring him in here. That's what you need to do.
The holy grail. The holy grail is getting Dante in one of those uniform reveals.
I would say get him on the show is a holy grail right there.
Well, yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, I don't know. It'll come when it comes, but I'm really excited for this. So Thursday night kickoff at FBC Mortgage Stadium, 7 p.m. on ESPN Plus. And according to Black Gold Banneret's unofficial meteorologist Eric Burris of West Channel 2 in Orlando, showers, storms of concern. Bring your ponchos. Might have some rain issues. Clouds around, storms on radar for tailgating about 5 o'clock. Keeping an eye on the radar at 7 o'clock. Might be rainy, so we'll see. Hopefully it holds off.
I miss our old official weather lady in Danny Medina. Miss having her around. She knew how to call the weather.
I saw her on my Twitter timeline. She is ready. She posted a whole
Danny's ready, man. Look out.
By the way, Drew, you mentioned Dante. Did you see UCF football's tweet where they talked to Coach Lounsbury about his
I did
on Dante's story?
Oh yeah, I've heard a bunch of those Dante stories. I know for you, it's like this is like all brand new stuff, and it's like mind blowing. To be young.
Yeah, I know. Well, a new football season starts for us on Thursday. We'll all be there. Follow UCF Banneret _SBN. Follow each of us individually. Jeff _Sharon, Eric Lopez Elo, Stat Boy Drew. It's Bryson Turner, the SOTG for Kyle Nash. Kyle and Bryson will be in the press box. Drew and Eric will be watching the telecast, which again, our guest for today, Leger Douzable, will be the analyst for. Thanks again to Leger. Make sure you follow him at Leger Douzable on Twitter as well. I love Leger. He's just an amazing ambassador for the program. And best of luck to him on this telecast and all the future ones that he does as well. But again, it's showtime, guys. Here we go. We even have cross country getting going on Friday too at 6:30. So make sure you're on. Make sure you follow us for the latest news on that. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Black and Gold Banneret, where Derek and Noah are going to be putting their latest photos as well as post-game reactions up there on Instagram as well. And of course, YouTube, Black Gold Banneret on YouTube, where we will have our where we put our latest video content. And we will and Eric, we're going to be doing night shift too, right?
Post-game show, night shift. Me and Drew will handle it this week. Obviously, we're going to be on watch-along throughout the deal. Drew will give us more jersey breakdowns, live, interactive. But then post-game show, we'll talk about the game. Kyle will join us from the stadium somewhere. So full coverage, knee-jerk reactions returns, right, Drew?
It's back.
does the day end in Y, then it's a great day for a knee-jerk reaction.
That's great.
It's also a great day for tacos.
We've got you covered. We are so excited as we roll forward. Don't forget, we also got soccer, we got volleyball, we got cross country, we got everything happening this weekend. We are back full swing here as we start the month of September here on Black and Gold Banneret. For Kyle, for Drew, for Bryson, for Eric, I'm Jeff. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you follow us at also make sure you subscribe to our podcast if you don't already. If you do, we thank you. Leave us a rating. For all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret, I'm Jeff Sharon saying thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the game on Thursday night. Go Knights. Charge on. We will see you Thursday night for UCF and South Carolina State.